Good morning, everyone. As you can see on the screen, our topic today is organizational behavior with 6 subtopics. So the subtopics assigned for me are the essence of organizational behavior and the characteristics of people. I am Aliana Sandiego and I'm with Joanna Alarde and Angelica Deriquito. So for the first subtopic, it is the essence of organizational behavior. So what is organizational behavior? So here are two of some definitions on organizational behavior. So as noted by Wood, organizational behavior is the term used to describe how people within their organization act individually or in groups and how organizations function in terms of their structure, processes, and culture. So according naman to Pew, the study of structure, functioning, and performance of organizations and the behavior of groups and individuals. Characteristic of organizational behavior. So, Ivancevich describes 6 characteristics of organizational behavior. First, it is a way of thinking about individuals, groups, and organization. It is multidisciplinary, means that it uses principles, models, theories, and methods from other disciplines. There is a distinctly humanistic orientation, so people and their attitudes, perceptions, learning capacities, feelings, and goals are of major importance. It is performance-oriented. It deals with the factors affecting performance and how it can be improved. The use of scientific method is important in studying variables and relationships. And last, it is applications oriented. So it is applications oriented in the sense of being concerned with providing useful answers to questions which usually naman, diba, arise when managing organizations. Explaining organizational behavior. So according naman to Moore, there are 2 ways of explaining organizational behavior. So the 2 ways are the variance theory and the process theory. So for the variance theory, dito na-explain yung causes of organizational behavior by reference to the independent or causal variables. So variance theory involves the definition and precise measurement of the variables. So process theory naman, process theory explains organizational behavior by producing narratives which provide probable explanations of the outcomes of a series of events. Factors affecting organizational behavior. So the actions, reactions, and interactions of people that constitute organizational behavior are influenced by the following factors. So first is the characteristics of people at work, individual differences, attitudes, personality, attributions, orientations, and the roles they play. So this will be my next report. How people are motivated, the process of employee engagement, and the process of organizational commitment will be reported by my groupmate Jana, and how organization function and organizational culture will be also reported by my groupmate Angelica. So the significance of organizational behavior, it is to understanding the importance of organizational behavior provides direction to organization. Organizational behavior has great relevance in today's business environment. Studying organizational behavior helps to understand and predict organizational life. It also helps to understand the nature and activities of people in an organization. And last, it has great need and significance to motivate employees and to maintain interrelations in the organization. So for my next subtopic are the characteristics of people. So to manage people effectively, it is necessary to understand the factors that affect how people behave at work. So here are the fundamental characteristics. First is the individual differences. So as affected by people's abilities, intelligence, personality, background and culture, gender and race. Attitudes, causes and manifestations. So for the influence on behavior, it is the personality and attitudes. Attribution theory, it is how we make judgments about people. For the orientation, it is the approaches people adopt to work. And for the roles, it is the parts people play in carrying out their work. Individual differences. So, mas madali mag-manage ng tao if everyone were the same, right? But that they are, of course, different because of their abilities, intelligence, personality, background and culture, pati yung environment, kung saan sila lumaki or kung saan tayo lumaki, gender, the race, and disability are additional factors to be taken into account. Importantly, yung needs and wants ng individuals will also differ. So, individual differences as affected by people's ability. Ability is the quality that makes an action possible. So, Bert and Vernon classified two major ability in two major groups. So, first is the V:ED. It means for standing for verbal abilities, numerical abilities, memory and reasoning abilities. For the K:M naman, it stands for spatial and mechanical abilities, as well as the perceptual and motor skills. It is relating to physical operations such as eye or the hand coordination. So next is the individual differences as affected by people's intelligence. So here are some of the definitions of intelligence. So according to Argyle, it is the capacity to solve problems, apply principles, make inferences, and perceive relationships. According naman to Topless and others, it is the capacity to abstract thinking and reasoning with a range of different contents and media. So according naman to Mackin, it is the capacity to process information. And according to Wright and Taylor, it is what is measured by intelligence test. So, kung natatandaan nyo, or kung sino may alam ng intelligence test, one of the most common intelligence tests is the WAIS, or the WAIS. So, it means Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale. So, meron siyang part doon which is the verbal intelligence. So, under dun sa verbal intelligence, meron dong vocabulary, arithmetic, comprehension, and similarities. So, as an operational definition, it can be related to the specific aspects of reasoning, inference, cognition, and perception. So, that is that intelligence test attempt to measure. Individual differences as affected by people's personality. So as defined by Topless, the term personality is all-embracing in terms of the individual's behavior and the way it is organized and coordinated when he or she interacts with the environment. So personality can be described in terms of traits and types. First is the trait concept of personality. Personality can be defined as the relatively stable and enduring aspects of individuals that distinguish them from other people. So, the so-called big personality traits as defined by Deary and Matthews, first is the neuroticism. Those are the anxiety, depression, hostility, self-consciousness, impulsiveness, and vulnerability. Next is the extroversion. Under extroversion are the warmth, gregariousness, assertiveness, activity, excitement-seeking, and positive emotion. For the openness, it is the feelings, action, ideas, and values. For the agreeableness, it is the trust, straightforwardness, altruism, compliance, modesty, and tender-mindedness. And last, the conscientiousness is the competence, order, dutifulness, achievement striving, self-discipline, and deliberation. So for the type theories of personality, type theory identifies a number of types of personality that can be used to categorize people and may form the basis of personality tests. So one of the most widely used type theories is that of Jung. So he identified four major preferences of people. First is the relating to other people. So it's the extroversion or introversion, the introvert ones. Gathering information, it is sensing and intuitive. So sensing in the sense of dealing with facts that can be objectively verified, or for the intuitive, ito yung generating information through insight. Next is using information, the thinking and feeling. So thinking in the sense of emphasizing logical analysis as the basis for decision making, or pag feeling naman, and for the feeling naman, it is the making decisions based on internal values and beliefs, kung ano yung paniniwala mo. And last is the making decisions. So it is the perceiving or judging. So for the perceiving, it is the collecting all the relevant information before making a decision. Or judging, it is the resolving the issue without waiting for a large quantity of data. So nag-judge ka na agad. Wala pang mga data. Individual differences as affected by people's background and culture. So the influence of background individual differences may be a function of people's background, which includes yung environment and culture na kinalakihan natin. So si Levinson suggested that individual life structure is shaped by 3 types of external events. First is the social cultural event. Next is the roles they play, the relationships they have. Third is the opportunities and constraints that enable or inhibit them to express and develop their personality. So, individual differences arising from people's gender, race, and disability. Syempre, it is dangerous to make assumptions about inherent differences between people just because of their sex, race, or degree of disability. So, kung may differences tayo ng behavior sa work, these are more likely because of environmental and cultural factors. So, there is a research cited by Arnold. First, for the gender is working women as a whole experience more daily stress, marital dissatisfaction, and aging worries, and were less likely to show overt anger than either housewives or men. So for the race demand, ethnic minorities may find that the selection process is biased against them. Promotion prospects are low, and that they are subject to other overt or subtle forms of discrimination. So, yung mga ethnic minorities, hindi ba sa ibang bansa, uso discrimination, like, so pag Asian ka, or minsan pag black ka, or indigenous people, yun yung laging nakaka-face ng discrimination. So, for the disability, the behavior of people with disabilities can also be affected by the fact that they are not given equal opportunities. Diba napapansin nyo, example, yung hindi pag-hire sa'yo because of your disability, or sometimes kayo yung or yung may mga disability yung nauunang ma-lay off or ma-terminate. So, next is tapos na tayo sa individual differences. Next is the attitudes. So, an attitude can broadly be defined as a settled mode of thinking. So, yung attitude natin nade-develop siya through experience. So, within organizations, they are affected by cultural factors gaya ng values and norms, yung management style and policies, such as yung salary, recognition, and promotion. Diba minsan, pag malaki na yung salary mo, parang nag-iiba na yung attitude mo, parang nagyayabang ka na kasi malaki na yung sinasahod mo. So, next is influences on behavior at work. So, there are factors affecting behavior. Behavior at work is dependent on both the personal characteristics of individuals, so the personality and the attitudes, and the situation in which they are working. So, itong mga factors na to, they interact, and this theory of behavior is sometimes called interactionism. Kasi it is a process of interaction. So, tayo, as we interact with one another, nagkakaroon siya ng meaning sa atin. So, sa iba, and the world around us. And ginagamit natin yung meanings na yun as a basis basis for making decisions and taking actions in our everyday lives. Influences on behavior at work naman. So, behavior will be influenced by the perceptions of individuals about the situation they are in. So, si James and Sells, they coined the term psychological climate. So, yun daw is to describe how people's perceptions of the situation give it psychological significance and meaning. So, they suggested that the key environmental variables are: first is the role characteristics, such as role ambiguity and conflict. So, for job characteristics naman, such as autonomy and challenge. Leader behaviors, including goal emphasis and work facilitation. Work group characteristics, including yung cooperation and friendliness. Of course, kung nag-work kayo as a group, you need to be friendly para madali kayong para hindi magkaroon ng conflict. And organizational policies that directly affect individuals, such as the reward system. Next is attribution theory. This is how it is how we make judgments about people. So we make an attribution when we perceive and describe other people's action and try to discover why they behave in the way they did. We can also make attributions about ourselves. So si Kelly has suggested that there are 4 criteria that we apply to decide whether behavior is attributable to personal rather than external or the situational causes. The first is the distinctiveness. So the behavior can be distinguished from the behavior of other people in similar situations. Consensus. If other people agree that the behavior is governed by some personal characteristics. Consistency over time. It is whether the behavior is repeated. And consistency over modality. This is whether or not the behavior is repeated in different situations. Attribution theory is also concerned with the way in which people attribute success or failure to themselves. So this is a research by Weiner that high achievers tend to attribute failure to lack of effort and not because of the lacking of their ability. For the low achievers, they tend not to link success with effort but to ascribe their failures to lack of ability. So for the orientation to work, orientation is a central organizing principle that underlies people's attempts to make sense of their lives. So in relation naman sa work, as defined by Guest, it is orientation is a persisting tendency to seek certain goals and rewards from work which exists independently of the nature of the work and the work content. So, si Blackburn and Mann, they are blue-collar workers sila sa Peterborough. So, blue-collar worker means yun yung mga nagma-manual labor like mining, construction, also in manufacturing. So, nag-research sila and they found a wider range of orientation. So, they suggested that different ones vary in degrees of force in different situations. So, si Blackburn and Mann confirmed that yung pay was a key preference area. So, actually, this is top preferences. So, first is the pay. Next is the security, workmates, intrinsic job satisfaction. So, intrinsic job satisfaction, it is when you only consider the kind of work you do, yung kunwari, for your own growth, ganon. And last is the autonomy. So, they commented that, nung nakita nila itong top preferences, they commented that an obsession with wages clearly emerged kasi number 1 yung pay. So, roles at work. So when faced with any situation, example, when carrying out a job, people have to enact a role in order to manage that situation. So at work, the term role describes the part to be played by individuals in fulfilling their job requirements. So there are so a distinction can therefore be made. So there are two distinctions. First is the job description. This is which simply lists and the distinction. Two distinctions pala. This is job description and the role profile. So for the job description, which simply lists the main tasks and an individual has to carry out. For the role profile naman, it is which is more concerned with the behavioral aspects of the work and the outcomes the individual in the role is expected to achieve. So there are three types of roles. The role ambiguity. So the role ambiguity is when individuals are unclear about what their role is, what is expected of them, or how they are getting on. They may become insecure or lose confidence in themselves. Next is the role incompatibility. Stress and poor performance may be caused by roles having incompatible elements, as when there is a clash between what other people expect from the role and what individuals believe as expected of them. And last, role conflict. It results when, even if roles are clearly defined and there is no incompatibility between expectation, individuals have to carry out two antagonistic roles. So that would be the end of my report. Thank you, everyone.